Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad to have you here today. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our future content. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that affects us all, whether we realize it or not. We all carry baggage from past relationships, and sometimes those emotional scars can linger, even if we don't intend for them to. Today, we're going to uncover 7 secret tips on the residue of past relationships, how old wounds shape your current connection. These tips will help you recognize how the past may still be influencing your present relationships in ways you might not even realize. It's normal to experience emotional pain from past relationships, but it's important to understand how this pain can affect how we connect with others in the present. Whether it's trust issues, emotional triggers, or unconscious patterns, our past wounds can shape the way we approach love and connection. In this video, we'll explore practical strategies to help you identify these hidden influences, release old hurts, and build stronger, healthier connections in the future. The goal is to empower you with the knowledge and tools to break free from the chains of your past so you can live more fully in the present and enjoy healthier relationships moving forward. If you've ever felt like you were repeating the same emotional patterns or struggling to let go of past hurts, then this video is for you. Let's get started. Number 1, overcompensating for past mistakes. Overcompensating for past mistakes is an emotional burden that many carry with them, often without realizing its weight. We all make mistakes, but sometimes the guilt and regret associated with those mistakes become so overwhelming that we go to great lengths to atone for them, even if it means losing sight of ourselves in the process. This overcompensation manifests in different ways, whether it's through excessive gestures of kindness, trying to control situations that are out of our hands, or pushing ourselves beyond our limits to make things right. But in the end, overcompensating can often do more harm than good, leaving us exhausted, confused, and still longing for the redemption that seems just out of reach. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This statement resonates deeply when thinking about the tendency to overcompensate. Often the guilt we feel for our past mistakes is magnified in our minds, causing us to believe that we need to do more than is necessary to fix what we perceive as broken. Instead of allowing ourselves to learn from our past, we become trapped in a cycle of overcompensation, where our actions are driven by a need to prove something to ourselves or to others, rather than to genuinely grow. For example, imagine a father who was emotionally distant from his children during their formative years. Perhaps he was consumed by his career or personal struggles, and his relationship with his kids suffered as a result. Now, years later, when the realization hits that he missed out on so much, he overcompensates by showering them with material gifts, taking them on lavish trips, or overscheduling his time to make up for lost moments. While his intentions are pure, the underlying issue isn't resolved. The children may appreciate the gestures, but might still feel that emotional distance because what they truly needed was his time, attention, and presence during those critical years. In the same way, someone who has hurt a loved one in the past through betrayal, unkind words, or neglect may overcompensate by constantly apologizing or giving excessive gifts, trying to earn back trust that can only truly be rebuilt over time through consistent, meaningful change. They may believe that the only way to make up for the hurt they cause is by proving their worth over and over, but in doing so, they ignore the fact that healing requires more than just actions. It requires genuine remorse, understanding, and a commitment to being better, not simply compensating for the wrong. Seneca's wisdom can be applied here once again. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." When we overcompensate for past mistakes, we often waste precious time, desperately trying to erase the past rather than learning from it. We convince ourselves that our past is a burden that needs to be corrected, when in reality, it is a part of our journey that contributes to our growth. Trying to fix every mistake we've made can keep us from moving forward and embracing the future. We spend so much time looking backward, overcompensating for what's already happened, that we forget to live in the present and build a better future. The act of overcompensating is often driven by a fear of being judged or rejected. We become so desperate to show that we are better than the mistakes we made that we forget to simply accept our imperfections. To truly heal from past mistakes, we must first accept responsibility for them without the need to prove our worth over and over. It's not about making up for lost time, but about moving forward with the wisdom gained from our experiences. In conclusion, overcompensating for past mistakes is a form of self-punishment that can hold us back from true healing. Instead of relentlessly trying to correct our past, we must learn to forgive ourselves, understand the lessons embedded in our mistakes, and focus on making positive changes in the present. As Seneca reminds us, the greatest wealth is to live content with little. True peace and healing come from living with acceptance of who we are, flaws and all, and making the most of the time we have left to become the best version of ourselves, not through overcompensating for the past, but by being present and striving for genuine growth. Number 2, unconscious emotional triggers. Unconscious emotional triggers are deeply ingrained responses or reactions that arise from past experiences, often without our awareness or control. These triggers can be sparked by certain words, actions, or even specific situations that remind us of unresolved emotions or traumatic events. When these triggers are activated, we may react with heightened emotions such as anger, fear, sadness, or anxiety, often in disproportion to the situation at hand. Understanding and addressing these unconscious emotional triggers is key to personal growth and emotional well-being. The challenge with unconscious emotional triggers is that they are often rooted in past experiences, particularly in childhood or formative years. They can be the result of unresolved trauma, abandonment, criticism, or neglect. These experiences leave emotional scars that we may not fully comprehend, yet they continue to shape how we react to similar circumstances later in life. For example, a person who was criticized harshly by a parent as a child may have an unconscious trigger related to criticism, which can cause them to react defensively, even when the criticism is mild or constructive. They might feel rejected or inadequate, even though there is no malicious intent behind the feedback. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This insight reveals that many of our emotional triggers are fueled by our own mind, where we exaggerate or distort the present situation based on past experiences. The emotional pain we felt in earlier times gets projected onto current circumstances, creating an intense and often irrational response. Our minds tend to replay old narratives, which reinforces the emotional reactions that come from those triggers. This pattern of thought can prevent us from responding to the present moment with clarity, causing unnecessary suffering. An example of unconscious emotional triggers can be seen in relationships. Someone who experienced betrayal in a past relationship might have an unconscious trigger related to trust. In a new relationship, even minor signs of perceived dishonesty, like a missed text or an unexplained delay, may trigger feelings of insecurity or jealousy. These emotions are not necessarily reflective of the new partner's actions, but rather of the emotional scars left from past hurt. The person may react impulsively, questioning their partner's loyalty, even though the situation does not warrant such a response. This can cause strain in the relationship, as the person with the trigger may not even be aware of why they are reacting in such an intense way. The concept of unconscious emotional triggers is not limited to philosophy, but can be seen in other philosophical teachings as well. For instance, Buddhist teachings emphasize the need to recognize and control one's attachments and emotional reactions. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we fail to understand the root causes of our emotions, especially those tied to attachment and past experiences. By practicing mindfulness and self-awareness, individuals can begin to recognize their unconscious triggers and develop the ability to respond more consciously rather than react out of conditioned patterns. Similarly, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, known for his ideas on self-overcoming, emphasized the importance of becoming aware of the unconscious forces that shape our lives. He argued that true growth comes from confronting our deepest fears, desires, and emotional triggers, understanding them and transcending them. In his work Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche said, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster." This is a reminder that when we react without awareness to our emotional triggers, we risk perpetuating cycles of hurt and suffering, much like the monsters we seek to fight. True freedom lies in understanding and mastering our unconscious emotional patterns, rather than being controlled by them. In conclusion, unconscious emotional triggers are automatic reactions to past experiences that arise in our present lives, often without our awareness. These triggers can cause us to overreact or act out of proportion to the actual situation. By recognizing the influence of these emotional patterns, we can begin to break free from them. As Seneca and other philosophers teach, the key to emotional freedom is awareness and self-control. Through mindfulness, self-reflection, and personal growth, we can become more conscious of our emotional triggers, learn to respond with clarity, and ultimately lead more fulfilling, less reactive lives. Understanding our triggers is not about suppressing our emotions, but rather about acknowledging them and gaining mastery over how we allow them to influence our actions. Number 3, difficulty trusting love. The difficulty of trusting love is a deeply emotional and complex challenge faced by many. Love at its core is meant to be a source of comfort, security, and joy, yet for some it becomes a source of fear, uncertainty, and even pain. Whether stemming from past heartbreak, betrayal, or fear of vulnerability, the inability to trust love can keep individuals locked in cycles of self-protection, preventing them from fully experiencing the warmth and connection that love has to offer. This challenge often requires a deep internal examination of past wounds and the courage to embrace vulnerability. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once remarked, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This insight can be applied to the difficulty of trusting love. Often, the fear of being hurt or disappointed is amplified by our own imagination. We project past betrayals, hurts, or rejections onto potential future experiences, causing us to shy away from love or become overly cautious in new relationships. Our minds replay old wounds, distorting the present moment and preventing us from fully engaging with the possibility of new, positive connections. We are so afraid of being hurt again that we fail to see the genuine love and care being offered to us in the present. For instance, someone who has experienced emotional or physical abandonment in past relationships may find it difficult to trust a new partner, even if this new person demonstrates love and loyalty. Their mind may constantly question the new partner's intentions, wondering if they will eventually leave or betray them, as others have done in the past. This suspicion is not based on the actions of the new partner, but rather on the unresolved pain from past experiences. The inability to trust love in such situations is not just about the present, but rather a lingering fear and trauma from what has happened before. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who wrote extensively about human emotions and relationships, discussed the concept of self-overcoming, which can be applied to this difficulty in trusting love. Nietzsche believed that individuals must transcend their limitations and confront their deepest fears in order to experience true growth. He argued that in relationships, love requires the courage to be vulnerable, to face one's fears of rejection or loss. As he put it, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." In the context of love, this means that having a deep purpose or understanding of why we seek connection, whether for growth, shared joy, or mutual care, can help us overcome the fear and skepticism that prevent us from fully trusting love. For example, a person who has been repeatedly hurt in relationships may have a hard time trusting new love, seeing it through the lens of past betrayal. However, if they can reflect on why they desire love in their life, whether for companionship, personal growth, or the chance to share experiences with another person, they may begin to understand that love, while inherently vulnerable, is also an opportunity for greater understanding and self-discovery. The past hurts may still exist, but they no longer have to dictate the future. Understanding the purpose of love allows us to be more open and trusting, even if the fear of hurt lingers. Additionally, in the philosophy of existentialism, thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre believe that love is an act of freedom and choice. Sartre argued that to truly love, one must choose to love, regardless of past hurts or fears of the future. He wrote, "Love is the desire to be loved." This perspective challenges the notion that love is something that happens to us passively. Instead, it emphasizes that love is an active choice, a conscious decision to embrace vulnerability, even with the risk of pain. This idea is liberating because it frames trust in love not as something we passively receive, but as something we actively cultivate by choosing to open ourselves to another person, despite the fear of being hurt. In conclusion, difficulty trusting love often stems from past emotional wounds and a fear of vulnerability. Whether due to betrayal, loss, or rejection, these experiences create a shield that prevents us from fully embracing love in the present. However, by reflecting on the teachings of philosophers like Seneca and Nietzsche, we can gain insight into how we might overcome these fears. Seneca's wisdom teaches us that our suffering is often magnified by our imagination, while Nietzsche's philosophy encourages us to confront our fears and understand the deeper purpose behind our desire for love. Ultimately, trusting love requires the courage to embrace vulnerability, to actively choose love despite the risk, and to move beyond past hurts in order to experience the richness that love can bring to our lives. Number 4, difficulty letting go of the past. The difficulty of letting go of the past is a common struggle that affects many people throughout their lives. Our past experiences, whether they be joyful memories or painful ones, shape who we are, and it's natural to carry them with us. However, when we cling to the past too tightly, we can find ourselves trapped, unable to fully engage with the present or move forward into the future. The weight of old regrets, past mistakes, or even nostalgic memories can prevent us from embracing the opportunities that life presents. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, offers wisdom on the importance of living in the present. He famously said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This statement reflects the tendency of many people to dwell on the past, reliving it in their minds over and over, as though their memories can change their current reality. Our imaginations often embellish the pain of the past, making it feel as if it still holds power over us. We become trapped in what could have been or what we could have done differently. This inability to let go of the past creates a mental prison, where we are unable to fully experience the freedom and possibilities of the present. For example, someone who has gone through a painful breakup may continue to dwell on the past relationship for years. Instead of accepting that the relationship ended and moving forward, they keep replaying moments from the past, wondering what went wrong or what they could have done to prevent the breakup. Their inability to let go of the past prevents them from opening themselves to new relationships and prevents personal growth. While the pain from the past is real, it's important to recognize that holding on to those memories is often a choice. The past cannot be changed, and by holding on to it, we deprive ourselves of the opportunity to heal and move on. Other philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche also offer valuable perspectives on the importance of letting go. Nietzsche believed in the concept of eternal recurrence, the idea that if we were to live our lives over and over again, we should live them in such a way that we would embrace every moment, including its hardships. Nietzsche urged us to embrace our experiences, both good and bad, without clinging to them or letting them define us. He wrote, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." This perspective encourages us to acknowledge our past, not as something to be regretted or erased, but as a source of strength that shapes who we are. To truly move forward, we must embrace all aspects of our past and learn from them, rather than allow them to hold us back. Letting go of the past doesn't mean forgetting it or pretending it didn't happen. It means accepting it and learning to move forward, not allowing old wounds to dictate our future. Buddhist philosophy also supports this idea, teaching that attachment to the past, whether through memories of joy or sorrow, leads to suffering. The Buddhist teachings emphasize mindfulness and living in the present moment. By focusing on the present rather than being consumed by past experiences, we can break free from the cycle of suffering caused by clinging to what has already happened. It is through this practice of letting go that we can cultivate peace and acceptance. In practical terms, letting go of the past may involve forgiveness, both of ourselves and others. We may need to forgive ourselves for mistakes we have made or for not living up to our own expectations. Similarly, forgiving others for wrongs done to us allows us to release the emotional burden and no longer let their actions control our present. As Seneca advised, we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. This is an important lesson in understanding that while the past may shape us, it does not have to define our future. When we let go of the past, we are able to move forward with a lighter heart, free to create new experiences. In conclusion, the difficulty of letting go of the past is a challenge faced by many, but it is also one that can be overcome with awareness and intentional. Seneca's wisdom reminds us that much of our suffering is self-inflicted through overthinking the past. And Nietzsche teaches us that embracing every moment, including our struggles, leads to greater strength. By accepting the past, learning from it, and allowing ourselves to move forward, we free ourselves from the emotional weight that holds us back. Letting go of the past is not about erasing it, but about freeing ourselves from its grip, allowing us to fully experience the present and embrace the future with open arms. Number 5, fear of repeating past mistakes. The fear of repeating past mistakes is a deeply rooted anxiety that can prevent personal growth, hinder progress, and limit our potential in various aspects of life. This fear often arises from previous experiences of failure, regret, or disappointment. When we make mistakes, especially significant ones, they can create a lasting impact on our confidence, and we may become consumed with the idea that we are bound to make the same errors again. This fear can lead to self-doubt, overthinking, and even paralysis, where we become so afraid of failing again that we avoid taking risks or making decisions altogether. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, famously said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." This quote speaks to the essence of the fear of repeating past mistakes. Often, it is not the potential for failure itself that holds us back, but the mental barriers we create around it. The fear of repeating mistakes can become a self-fulfilling prophecy as we avoid taking action due to the worry of making the same errors again, which in turn prevents us from moving forward and learning from the experience. For example, imagine someone who failed in a business venture in the past. After losing money and time, they become overly cautious about future investments, convinced that they will make the same mistakes again. This fear of repeating past mistakes might cause them to avoid new opportunities, even when they have learned valuable lessons from their previous failure. The constant worry of making another wrong decision keeps them stuck in a cycle of inaction, missing out on potential growth and success. Instead of using their past experience as a stepping stone, they allow it to control their future decisions. This fear is also common in relationships. A person who has been hurt in a past romantic relationship, whether through betrayal, miscommunication, or emotional harm, may become overly cautious or even avoid new relationships altogether. They may fear that they will end up in a similar situation and experience the same heartbreak again. As a result, they might hold back emotionally, overanalyze every interaction, or sabotage their chances of building a healthy connection out of fear of repeating the past. The weight of past pain can make it difficult to trust again or to approach future relationships with an open heart. While it is natural to want to avoid repeating mistakes, the fear of doing so can become paralyzing if not properly managed. Seneca, with his Stoic philosophy, emphasized the importance of accepting the inevitability of mistakes and learning from them. He believed that failure is not something to be feared, but rather something to be used as a tool for growth. He stated, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This reflects the fact that our fear of repeating mistakes often stems more from our anxious thoughts about potential failure than from actual events. We imagine the worst possible outcome, which prevents us from taking the steps necessary to move forward. To overcome the fear of repeating past mistakes, it is crucial to reframe our perspective on failure. Instead of seeing it as something to avoid at all costs, we can choose to view mistakes as opportunities to learn. Each mistake carries a lesson that can make us wiser, more resilient, and better prepared for future challenges. By adopting a growth mindset, we shift our focus from fearing failure to embracing it as an inevitable part of the journey to success. For instance, a person who has failed in a business venture can analyze what went wrong, learn from their missteps, and use those lessons to make better decisions in the future. Rather than being paralyzed by the fear of failure, they can approach new ventures with greater wisdom and a willingness to take calculated risks. Similarly, someone who has been hurt in a relationship can reflect on what went wrong, understand their role in the situation, and approach future relationships with a clearer sense of boundaries, communication, and trust. In conclusion, the fear of repeating past mistakes are a common challenge that many people face. It stems from the emotional scars of previous failures, regrets, and disappointments. However, as Seneca reminds us, much of this fear is imagined and based on our own mental projections. To overcome this fear, we must embrace mistakes as opportunities for learning and growth, using our past experiences to make better, more informed decisions moving forward. By doing so, we can free ourselves from the grip of fear and take bold steps toward creating a more fulfilling and successful future. Number 6, difficulty in trusting new beginnings. Starting something new can be an exciting prospect, yet it often comes with its own set of challenges. One of the most common struggles people face when beginning something fresh, whether it's a new relationship, job, or life chapter, is the difficulty in trusting that the new beginning will be better than the past. This fear of the unknown, combined with previous disappointments or failures, creates a sense of hesitation, preventing people from fully embracing new opportunities. The difficulty in trusting new beginnings is often rooted in past experiences, emotional wounds, and the fear of repeating past mistakes. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wisely noted, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This insight highlights the power of self-mastery, especially when it comes to overcoming the fear and doubt that arise at the start of something new. People often struggle to trust new beginnings because they feel a lack of control. They are unsure of what lies ahead, and the fear of being hurt or disappointed again can make it difficult to take the necessary steps forward. For example, someone who has experienced a series of failed relationships might find it difficult to trust a new romantic partner. They may carry the emotional baggage from past betrayals, heartbreaks, or disappointments, which makes it hard for them to believe that this new relationship will be different. They may wonder if the same patterns will repeat, even if the new partner shows genuine interest and care. The emotional scars of previous experiences often cloud their judgment, and they might hesitate to fully invest themselves in the new relationship, fearing the pain of another disappointment. Similarly, a person who has been through a career setback, such as losing a job or failing in a previous business venture, might struggle to trust that a new job or entrepreneurial endeavor will work out. Their past failures may haunt them, and the fear of making the same mistakes again may prevent them from taking bold steps in their new career. They may feel insecure about their abilities, questioning whether they are truly capable of succeeding or if history will simply repeat itself. This hesitation can prevent them from fully engaging in the new opportunity, and instead they might stay stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and indecision. Seneca's Stoic philosophy teaches that while we cannot control external events, we can control our reactions to them. He said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This speaks to the nature of fear. Often the fear of new beginnings is driven more by our anxieties and imagined scenarios than by actual events. Our minds tend to project past failures onto future experiences, creating unnecessary fear. In reality, new beginnings are opportunities for growth, and embracing them with an open mind can often lead to unexpected successes. The fear of failure or disappointment only serves to limit potential and prevent personal growth. For instance, when starting a new business venture, it is natural to have concerns about past failures. However, those who view past experiences as valuable lessons rather than mistakes will find themselves more prepared to navigate the challenges that arise in a new project. The key is to shift from a mindset of fear and self-doubt to one of possibility and growth. By focusing on what can be learned from past experiences, one can approach new beginnings with more confidence and clarity. In relationships, allowing oneself to trust a new partner requires vulnerability and an understanding that the past does not dictate the future. Each person is unique, and while it's tempting to project previous experiences onto someone new, true growth comes from allowing oneself to embrace the unknown with an open heart. Trusting a new beginning means accepting the possibility of both joy and disappointment, but understanding that it is through these experiences that we grow and evolve. In conclusion, difficulty trusting new beginnings is a challenge many people face due to the emotional scars of past experiences. The fear of repeating old mistakes or being hurt again can prevent individuals from embracing new opportunities. However, as Seneca teaches, the key to overcoming this fear lies in mastering our own responses to external circumstances. By reframing our perspective, viewing the past as a source of valuable lessons, and approaching new beginnings with an open mind and heart, we can move forward with confidence and trust in the opportunities ahead. New beginnings are not the end of something. They are the start of something greater, a chance to write a new chapter in our lives. Number 7. Inability to fully commit. The inability to fully commit is a common struggle that affects many aspects of life, from personal relationships to professional endeavors. Commitment requires a deep sense of trust, vulnerability, and dedication, but some individuals find it challenging to invest fully in any given situation. Whether it's avoiding long-term relationships, being hesitant to take on major responsibilities, or not fully engaging in a new career path, the fear of commitment can stem from various underlying causes, including past experiences, fear of failure, or a lack of self-confidence. This reluctance to commit can lead to missed opportunities, emotional dissatisfaction, and a sense of stagnation. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." This statement speaks to the essence of commitment. Many people fail to fully commit because they are uncertain or afraid of making a wrong decision. The fear of wasted time, failure, or regret often prevents them from investing fully in the present moment or in future endeavors. The underlying anxiety stems from not wanting to be tied down or trapped in a situation that might not work out. In essence, they fear making a decision and committing to it because they are unsure of what the future holds. For example, in relationships, individuals who are unable to commit often hesitate to make long-term commitments, such as marriage or deep emotional investment. They may have experienced past heartbreak, where the emotional pain of a failed relationship has made them wary of opening up again. The fear of being hurt or disappointed leads them to keep a distance, either emotionally or physically, from their partner. They may engage in a relationship, but avoid discussing long-term plans or avoid making promises that indicate their full commitment. This inability to commit fully often results in confusion, dissatisfaction, or even the breakdown of the relationship altogether. Similarly, in a professional context, the inability to commit can manifest as an unwillingness to invest in a career or long-term goals. A person might jump from job to job, never staying long enough to build expertise or achieve meaningful success. The fear of failure, coupled with the belief that the perfect job or opportunity might be just around the corner, keeps them in a state of constant searching but never fully engaging. As Seneca wisely notes, "He who is brave is free," suggesting that true freedom comes from the ability to commit wholeheartedly to a pursuit, rather than constantly running from one thing to the next out of fear. This lack of commitment often arises from a fear of making the wrong choice, or the anxiety of being stuck with something that doesn't work out. In relationships, people may fear that committing to one person will limit their options or prevent them from experiencing something better in the future. Professionally, the fear of committing to one path might come from the belief that there are infinite possibilities, and choosing one means closing off others. This type of thinking creates a cycle of indecision and dissatisfaction. However, the fear of commitment is often rooted in insecurity and the lack of understanding of the importance of dedication and focus. By committing fully to a relationship, a career, or a goal, individuals are able to experience deeper satisfaction and more meaningful accomplishments. Committing to something allows for growth and development, both personally and professionally. Commitment is not about being bound by limitations, but about embracing the responsibility that comes with the choice to engage deeply in something. In overcoming the inability to commit, it's important to recognize that commitment is not about perfection, it's about making a choice and sticking with it, even in the face of uncertainty. Seneca, in another passage, remarked, "The greatest wealth is to live content with little." This can be interpreted as the idea that commitment does not require the pursuit of endless options or the fear of missing out. Instead, true wealth comes from dedicating oneself to what matters and finding contentment in that focus. Conclusion. In conclusion, the residue of past relationships can significantly impact how we approach new connections. Unhealed emotional wounds, such as betrayal or heartbreak, often linger in our subconscious, influencing how we trust, communicate, and love in the present. These past experiences can create fears, doubts, and unrealistic expectations in current relationships. However, recognizing and understanding these patterns is the first step toward healing. By processing old wounds and practicing self-awareness, we can break free from their hold, allowing ourselves to build healthier, more authentic connections and embrace love with a clear heart and open mind. If you like this channel, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for more upcoming content